Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is February 26, 2022, and we have survived almost 2 months of 2022, but there's a lot of things on our bingo card that we did not, or a lot of things that were not on our bingo card that we didn't actually expect to have to throw on there at the last minute. Besides that, of course, got a lot of news to talk about, starting, of course, with Sony finally showing us what the PlayStation VR2 is actually going to be looking like. We will also be talking about the announcement of Street Fighter 6, as well as some things regarding its logo and some potential copycat issues. And we'll also be talking about Valve and potentially Game Pass, or at least their support for Game Pass on the Steam Deck sometime here in the near future. Again, it is February 26, 2022. We're going to roll our intro and get things started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 20th, 2020. It is Friday. It is, where's my date? It's September 18th, 2020 here to our first story, and this is actually breaking news for all of us right now here, too. Figured this is a kind of a big one to cover, of course, with who it is. Joined via Discord by Kyle because we're in the midst of a pandemic still, and, of course, everything is all kinds of crazy. So this thing is a chocker. I mean...
yeah, it's a beast.
It's huge. Doing that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. Welcome to another NPC's Weekly News Roundup. And it's the news time. I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man. There we go. We are live. We are on the air. We are here to do stuff. We are doing the news. Welcome, everybody, to another NPC's Weekly News Roundup. It is obviously, of course, February 26, 2022, like I said there in the intro, and botched it up very well. We've made it through 2 months of the year, and there's a lot of things going on right now that were not, there I said it properly, that were not on our bingo cards for this year. So, of course, without mentioning anything at this point in time, let's just carry on. Of course, I'm Travis, and as always, via Discord, joined by Kyle from his bedroom. Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
Reporting live from the bedroom down the hallway, it's Kyle.
Hello.
It's been a day, it's been a week, it's been
a week.
It has been a week. Personally, and in the world of everything else going on, it has been a week. But you're not here, our fellow listeners, our fellow watchers, our fellow people on the YouTube. You're not here to listen to our woes and our frustrations and our angers and our exhaustion. You are here to hear about our take on the video game news for this week. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to kick it right off with the first story of the day. We're going to be talking about Valve wants to help with Game Pass on Steam Deck. So, back when the Steam Deck was in the midst of its original testing, when they brought up a lot of influencers, a lot of people who were there to test out the different thing or test out all the different things with it and show things off, at least from an initial standpoint, one of the people who happened to be included with that was none other than head of Xbox, Phil Spencer. And this was back in August, and he was able to play around with it. He actually was able to play games via xCloud on the Steam Deck and was able to take advantage of playing things like Halo and I think even Civilization as well through xCloud, which in of itself is actually pretty sweet, especially for something that is dedicated for gaming compared to your phone. Well, in an article posted today by Video Games Chronicle, apparently in an interview with PC Gamer, Valve CEO Gabe Newell said that there isn't anything blocking the subscription service coming to Steam, but he did say that he said, but for their customers, it's clearly a popular option, and we'd be more than happy to work with them to get that on Steam. And the article goes on here, of course, talking about not only that EA Play exists on Steam already and has since 2020, but that they're not looking to make their own sort of Game Pass competitor and are, at least as of right now, saying that they've had quite a few conversations with the Xbox team. So with that out there, Kyle, I mean, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about potentially there being some sort of collaboration for Game Pass to be either included in Steam or potentially accessible through the Steam Deck without requiring Windows?
I think it's fantastic, honestly, especially if you're able to actually download the PC Game Pass games onto the Steam Deck. That's even better. That gives obviously more players to Game Pass, potentially more new players, which is exactly what Phil Spencer wants. I mean, it's basically Valve saying, "Oh, you wanted people to work with you. Yeah, we're all in, dude. Come on."
That's exactly what I'm thinking too, is that this really seems to fill that niche market anyway, though, is that people want more games. And by
Yeah.
offering Game Pass even more out there than it already is, by including something like maybe Steam compatibility, that means it could make it to the Steam Deck much faster. And you don't have to rely on the xCloud part of it. You can have the game locally instead.
Well, and especially when you think the Steam verified list, it's sitting at a meager like 399, 499 games, which is quite a lot of games. But in the scope of what Steam has to offer, it's very meager.
That's
And
true.
having access to a library that you're just paying a subscription fee, which Steam has no subscription fee. So, there are a few free to play games on Steam that you'll have access to if you buy a Steam Deck. But if you already have that Xbox subscription that you're paying for on your PC, or if you're paying for the Ultimate Game Pass on your Xbox, all of a sudden it broadens your horizon for, that many more games to be able to play and, at no extra cost to you.
That's very true. And that's one of those things that I see it as is doing some Game Pass type things, especially with the xCloud stuff on a phone, where you either have to
Mhm.
prop the phone up or you have to use one of the mounts for a controller and then, of course, do the Bluetooth pairing. That's not bad, but it definitely can be cumbersome, especially if you have a call come in and you've got to get everything undone, or
Right.
you're trying to shut things down and get stuff disconnected. That it's a problem. So by incorporating that ecosystem into Steam's environment and then making it so that way it is accessible on the Steam Deck, absolutely, it does broaden it and does kind of assign that at least to something that is basically a gaming PC on the go. I mean, all of the reviews that have come out so far about the Steam Deck now that the embargo has been lifted have been really sowing quite a bit of praise, saying, of course, that Valve, excuse me, and the hardware team have some work to do, but it's actually a pretty solid system. So for Game Pass to be included with it, EA Play is already there, which we know is already incorporated with Game Pass now too, and then the rest of the Steam library, at least for those things that work, it makes it a pretty tempting portable device for a lot of things. And we've even talked about it previously that it's not even the Xbox stuff, if that were to be integrated. The fact that you could take Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War, the newer ones, out on out with you by this without having to wait on Sony to come up with a whole new handheld model or try to
Right.
create their own competitor for Game Pass, that right in there itself even makes it a bigger selling point. Like, you can take PlayStation games with you. You can then, take Xbox games with you if that happens. And now it's like, okay, now you got the Steam
Mhm.
library. It makes it that much more compelling of a device to take with, hands down.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it makes me want one still just like even more. But I know, of course, I'm out of the pre-order cycle right now where I probably wouldn't see one for, oh God, a year, probably.
Honestly, at this point, even though that they have the Steam Deck 2, they say that they're working on it already. You look at the upgradability of the current model that they just launched, and where it's gonna go, and how long it's gonna take for that matter to get orders out there. If you want one, and if there's the ability to put in an order for one, I would probably just do it. Because if
Yeah,
nothing else, that $5, it just goes right back into your Steam account.
yeah. That's also very true too. Um, I guess part of it though is just the time to put into actually, waiting for something like that to actually come out. But
Right.
the idea though, yeah, is the upgradability is that if like, or even like going into the Steam Deck 2 part there that you're mentioning, is that the fact that they mentioned they're already working on a Steam Deck 2, or at least the successor to the Steam Deck, really gives at least some idea that, okay, the Steam Deck really did meet their expectations for sales then. Uh, Probably maybe even on the pre-order level, or maybe they looked at the pre-order plus the number of people who actually paid off the version that they wanted right off the bat. So maybe that was what led them to realize, hey, we can now start working on this because we met or exceeded our sales targets for the Steam Deck. So, because otherwise, why would they start on a Steam Deck 2 unless they weren't going to meet the criteria.
Right. But another thing to think about, though, too, is with all the modular components that the Steam Deck has, there is the potential that, the Steam Deck 2 could cost more because there is no, early adoption. A bunch of people threw in $5 and all of a sudden they had all this extra money to generate. Granted, Valve does not need the extra money probably, but
They probably don't.
it is just extra money that they had to throw at the consoles. But to the same effect, there is the potential that the next system could be more expensive, and you could just buy all the internals to upgrade the current gen model. So I mean, it weighs itself out.
Right, and that's one of those things I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed for that we had talked about, I think, in last week's news was the potential of there being some sort of trade-out program where when newer hardware does come out, like a newer motherboard, or even maybe a faster solid-state drive, that you're able to do some sort of exchange process where you send in the old board, pay maybe a little bit of money, and then get a whole new board in that gives you that next gen or that next layer of compatibility or the next level of specs that they're planning for the second Steam Deck.
Right.
So I'm overall, though, I mean, I'm very excited about what this could potentially bring to the market, or at least for the rest of the things to come to market, and how the other companies are going to approach this, how 1X Player is going to handle this, how A&E is going to handle it, how GPD is going to handle it. And if our rumor ends up being true, what we talked about several NPCs Discuss episodes ago was about, Asus or MSI or NVIDIA entering or re-entering the ring to offer some sort of Steam Deck competitor.
Well, and another thing a lot of people haven't examined quite yet is the whole using it as, well, basically like the NVIDIA Shield. You go dock it in another room, stream games from your computer to the console, and play them directly on the TV. Because there's the possibility of that with no latency as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot that people haven't taken a look at that this system's going to be capable of. And I think the fact that it's so modular and so upgradable, there's a small audience, well, maybe even a larger audience than I imagine, of people that'll buy them and they won't do anything with them. They'll play them as they are. But then there's people like you and me that we're going to want to tinker. It has the ability to tinker, and they've thrown everything out there for us to. We're probably going to tinker.
It's one of those things that if I were to get a Steam Deck, I would get the dock, I would get a KVM, and I would have my keyboard mouse hooked up to it. And because my gaming monitor here can do picture-in-picture, I would have the Steam Deck in one, running a full instance of Linux that I could get into without having to use like WSL or spin up a VM or something on my machine, and be able to do stuff there while at the same time be able to do stuff on my other machine in tandem, or what have you. There's a whole layer of different things that could actually occur with that. But I would look more especially at not just the gaming side of it on the go part, but the actual expandability, the dock part, especially when I go on trips or anything for work.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the fact that, and I don't even want to dive into it because we'll be talking all night, but you can install other operating systems on this thing. That's so cool.
So as it stands right now, apparently, while you can, it hasn't been fully vetted yet. There was something else that came out about it, though, I think either today or yesterday, that it may have even been the Linus Tech Tips review of the Steam Deck yesterday. But what I recall is that while it might work by installing Windows, there's no guarantee because it requires AMD and Valve to work together on custom driver sets for not only the CPU but also the GPU, basically the entire system on a chip. They've got to work out all the drivers to be able to actually allow it to work properly. So your mileage is going to vary if you can change it, but obviously that was a promise they made when they announced the Steam Deck. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Um. Anyway, with that, of course, though, if you have not yet pre-ordered your Steam Deck, you better go do it now because they've already sent out emails to the first round of people and should be shipping out here in the next couple days. But of course, you've probably already missed your first go around anyway, so order and then I guess wait. And of course, as you wait, you can sit here and hang out with us as we move on to the next story. Tesla wants Steam games in its cars. So this article from PC Gamer has Elon Musk right now has copied this tweet over from Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla. I guess Ryan McCaffrey. I've got to actually look who this guy is here. I don't know if this is actually the guy who wrote the article itself. I don't think so. No, he is the executive editor over at IGN. He puts up a tweet that says new Model SX version of Cyberpunk when? And Elon replied, we're working through the general case of making Steam games work on a Tesla versus specific titles. Former is obviously where we should be or where we should be long term. So the fact that the newer model Teslas, the ones with the yoke in it instead of a regular steering wheel, are coming with the ability to play games on them. You know, not just your standard like little platformer games, but some higher quality ones because they've got AMD RDNA 2 GPUs built into them. You know, it's kind of funny to think about Steam being in a car infotainment system. Like, what do you think about that? I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard some of the more recent news on gaming in a Tesla car, but if not, we can get into that in a minute. Okay. But what do you think about that, though?
So, like, is there a controller built into the steering wheel, I wonder?
So, for the platformer games that have come out so far, things like Cuphead, there's, I know Cuphead is the big one, and there were some other ones, but you would actually use the steering wheel controls to do it. Like there are some games that actually allowed you to steer the wheel while you were sitting like parked to be able to control whatever it was, or using the actual control buttons on the steering wheel to act as a controller. Now, I don't know if you can go plug in something like an Xbox controller into the USB port in there or what, but yes, there are ways to control that content, but
you know where I'm going with this, I think.
Okay. Oh, okay. Talk to me. Where are you going?
Racing games. Like, is there... could you imagine if someone accidentally unlocks the wheel or does something to, you know, put it out of game mode, and all of a sudden they think they're in game mode playing their you know, Need for Speed, or
and they drive through the
Forza
wall of the
Horizon,
garage,
and they drive through the wall of the garage, or God forbid, you know, off an overpass.
Well, most of that stuff anyway, the game stuff is supposed to work when the vehicle is parked. More recently, Tesla is under investigation right now because some games were originally available to play by the passenger in a Tesla as you were driving. However, it was actually found, based on people who did videos of themselves doing it, that the Tesla being in autopilot mode, you as the driver were able to play the games on the infotainment screen, which obviously, of course, is a big red flag. Now, hold on. You are right. Racing games. Sure. Okay. That right there is like, you know, one for one. You're in a car. You're playing a game in a car. It's like, oh, you're playing a driving game.
But
everything gets taken over. But that I don't know. I don't
think games really need to be in a car. Maybe in the back seat of the car, but do games really need to be in the front seat in the console of a car?
Okay.
I remember when, you know, it was extremely exotic to have an actual screen that displayed something other than, you know, your dot matrix, you know, radio station.
Yeah, especially if you get into those more like luxury SUVs when we were kids, or the minivans that had the TV, like, or the VCR or the DVD player, or if you were lucky, they also had RCA jacks. You could bring the N64 with you when you went on a vacation and plug it in and actually play N64 games on the go. Yes, you are right that that's stuff that should be relegated to obviously screens that are not next to the driver. You are
Yeah,
right.
these were
So
these were like family transports where you had 5 kids that you had to entertain simultaneously on a road trip that was 8 hours long, and
true,
you did this
true, true,
quite
true,
frequently.
true.
That's why they bought
But
these Astro vans like that.
yes,
But
but even so, with stuff like this, yeah, it definitely is one of those things that seems to be more for when you're idle, especially when you are charging your vehicle. Like if you're at a Tesla supercharger station and you've got to take, you've got to go like up for like a full charge or at least get yourself to a higher point, then you are going to be sitting there for a little bit, like, maybe 20 minutes, half hour. To be able to boot up Netflix there on the screen, to play games in the car, that's probably where most of it is tailored and aimed at, is to provide that level of distraction instead of doom scrolling on Twitter or playing on TikTok, like watching
okay,
videos on TikTok. That's what I'm saying. But what I want to get at, though, is that while the
because
Tesla
you
is,
can't be relegated to your cell phone screen like the common pleb for
I,
Netflix.
it definitely does feel like things like the
You know,
Tesla definitely do fit that kind of elitist
Toon
category.
Blast is far beyond. You're
But,
far beyond Toon Blast.
But what I want to say is this, though, is that while the Tesla is available to everybody, that, if you have the money, you can obviously go buy a Tesla. Okay. It's not limited to people at all. Anyway, but there are parts of this that feel like Elon Musk is basically building the car that he wants, kind of like when Homer Simpson found out that he had a long lost brother who runs a car company and he ends up
Yeah.
making that car. That's really where it feels like this comes into play, is that it's like, okay, you look at the Tesla and you look at the line of Teslas and the fact that you've got the Model S, the Model 3, the Model X, the Model Y. You have the ability to change the horn to any sound you want. You have the ability to turn on like some sort of romance mode that increases the heat and puts a fire on the screen, like out of a fireplace. You have you basically can put it into a dance mode where, like, especially with the Model X, where the Falcon wing doors open and close and everything to sync up with the music. So it's like it's dancing. Okay. This is a car that Homer Simpson would have built, yet somehow has made its way out there. And it continues to get more crazy. Hey, let's throw a gaming PC in the thing now, too, with an AMD RDNA GPU. And now you're getting
Yeah.
stuff like Cyberpunk in there. You're getting stuff like The Witcher. It's not just these little crazy ripoffs of Tetris or Galaga or whatever, but full-fledged
These are
games.
like pimp my ride level
They
luxuries
are.
now.
They
Totally
really are.
unnecessary.
Yeah, if you really want to
Yeah.
date us there, folks, that's where we're at right now, is we're at the level of pimp my ride. Um,
Yeah, no, that's exactly what this
or
is to
hold
me.
on, let me date us a little bit more. Not just pimp my ride, but Monster Garage.
Oh my
So
god.
anyway, but with that though, it's the problem though is that it's like, okay, this is some interesting things to actually like kind of incorporate into it, but obviously at the very high level when it comes to the vehicle itself, though, is that these are just luxuries to have in a vehicle that we've never seen in any other vehicle before. So obviously with a lot of these things, not only the self-driving functions and these other customizations, but it's a lot of things that we've never seen in a vehicle before outside of what we've seen in reality shows or someone who really like took this thing to the chop shop and tore it apart and put it back together in a different way. But because it's still a vehicle and because it's still on the road and because it is still something that can potentially kill one, several, or many people, it's going to be something that's going to be heavily scrutinized, especially as we start to move forward in the world of autonomous driving and the potential to reach full self-autonomy where you don't even have to actually drive the car. You actually can just tell it, go to the store, and it drives you to the store.
Well, and it's already been a problem with people sleeping in the cars that are on autopilot mode because that's not allowed,
No,
it's not legal to do.
no.
Um
And there are people who are selling defeat devices to actually get around those sensors so they can
oh
still
yeah.
do it. And yeah. Um,
Yeah, no, and
yeah.
that's exactly what I was going to get at is the fact that those people are already out there selling sensors to bypass the fact that you could just take a nap on your way to work if you had a 45-minute drive into work every day or whatever, and then take a nap on the way home so you're jazzed to go to the bar at in the evening or whatever. um you know People are just going to utilize that even further to attempt to play games when they're in high traffic areas that they should be both hands on the wheel, autopilot has no business, because that's really when the most accidents happen, is, when there is the one crazy driver, when everything is flowing
True.
properly and regularly in high traffic areas, but then one person goes out of line and then the car wigs out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's
So,
going to be interesting to see if he even can get away with doing something like this in the first place. But it was something worth mentioning, especially to see Steam, come up as a potential addition to a Tesla. Just, I don't know. But Serpent Knight on chat here does say there's a game in my Steam library called Tesla Effect, and maybe that should be the first game then that actually does get an official release then for the Teslas. That it is the Tesla Effect. Is that it is someone
yes.
it is basically a kid making their own vehicle, and somehow it's made it to mass production. Uh, I don't know. But as we summon the car and we wait for it to come around the corner, we move on to the world of virtual entertainment. And of course, we get to talk about the final official revealing of the PlayStation VR2. So Sony announced on the 22nd, which was, oh God, when was that? That was Tuesday. God, let's never talk about Tuesday again. The PlayStation VR2 has now been officially shown off in its full glory by Sony over on blog.playstation.com. And I'll go ahead and open up this article here so we can actually take a look at the picture all together here. Oh, I forgot to set this up too. Yay me for not setting this up right, because I just didn't do it. All right, there we go. This is the PlayStation VR2. So Hideki Nishino, or Nishino, I don't know how to pronounce. Nishino. I think that's what it is for. I just don't want to butcher really anybody's Japanese name, but he is the senior vice president for platform experience, and he goes on to say, "Today, I am especially pleased to reveal the stunning new design of our next generation VR headset, PlayStation VR2, together with an updated and final design image of our PlayStation VR2 Sense controller." So not only have they announced the final version of the Sense controller, which we can now see in dual tone white and black to match the color scheme of the PlayStation 5, but we can also see in the picture itself that the VR2 is definitely much slimmer. It appears to be much lighter and seems to pack even more hardware than the last generation PlayStation VR. I mean, I think for the size of this, it actually does look pretty slick. I think it looks really good. What do you think?
I really like the size and shape of it. I do kind of worry about the headphones, because the first generation, you had to utilize earbud headphones, and then for the second generation of the PSVR, they actually had earbuds built in that like hung down from it on cords on each side. So I wonder how the whole headphone aspect is going to work for the unit. But as far as design, I really like how sleek and lightweight it looks. That's one of the big complaints I have with the original Sony VR headset, is the bulkiness of it. I love the fact that it's got the out facing cameras, uh, just totally removing the need for the PlayStation camera, a totally useless accessory, and has been, in my opinion, since it launched on the PS2. But as we've learned, from console launch after console launch, and even through 360 generations, that people can't keep away from those damn cameras. So thank God it's on the headset finally instead.
No kidding.
Um,
No kidding.
and the displays are quite remarkable, coming in at 4K resolution. So that what it was, the resolution per eye, I want to say it was. I just saw it a moment ago. 2000 by 2040 per eye.
Okay.
So uh, it's gonna be sharp, sharp, which is yet another complaint I had with both headsets from the PS4. Granted, as far as like VR headsets, at the time that it launched versus what was on the market, it was the more affordable version. of what was available for connected units, but the images and pictures were not the sharpest.
Yeah, they really weren't. They that was one of the problems I had with the headset though too, is that I think the blurriness is probably what messed with me more than anything. But I really do like the look of this. I do like the design of it. It definitely feels like that they took some of the cues off of the curves and some of the sleekness that that Oculus has been able to figure out for like the Quest and Quest 2, because obviously something like the original PSVR definitely seemed to fit in with the mantra that we saw for other VR headsets at the time. The original Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, and all of the other
Yeah,
Windows.
I was gonna say I see
the
a
Windows
lot of nuance
HMDs.
from
Yeah.
the Oculus and the Vive in there for sure.
Yeah, but this one, yeah, I mean, I really see like a lot of value in this, especially when it comes to the actual size and shape of everything. And it does seem like it's going to be a more comfortable experience, because one of the things they tout here in the article,
Single cord.
yeah, the single cord is the big one, especially for a lot of people. But the one
Yeah.
thing, though, is that they actually are proud about in here is a quote from a senior art director, Eugene Morisawa, from Sony Interactive Entertainment, and he's talking about the vents on the thing here. So listen to this. When I started to work on the design for the PlayStation VR2 headset, one of the areas I wanted to focus on first was the idea of creating a vent in the headset to let air out, similar to the vents on the PS5 console that allows airflow. Our engineers came up with this idea as a good way to allow ventilation and avoid having the lenses fog up while players are immersed in their VR games. I worked on many design concepts to achieve this, and in the final design, you can see there is a little space in between the top and front surface of the scope that contains the integrated ventilation. Really proud of how this turned out and the positive feedback I've gotten so far. I hope our PlayStation fans will also agree, and I can't wait for them to try it out. So, obviously, of course, the venting situation on the PlayStation 5 is a very interesting one compared to what we see like on the Xbox Series X. It's the fact, though, that they realize that playing VR games can definitely cause your lenses in the headset to fog up. So, of course, obviously, they're putting in something that yes, exactly. They are actually putting something in there that makes sense, at least in the grand scheme of it. Not even necessarily the haptic feedback, the foveated rendering, the 4K resolution in there, but really the venting, one of the key things needed to continue long-term playing. I do, though, still think it really looks slick. I think it's cool. What I do hope, fingers crossed, okay? Fingers crossed, Kyle, that the VR2 will support PC games as well.
That's a big fingers crossed. Especially within the new controllers, that makes the control system on par with the Valve Index, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
that gives you full motion of all digits.
Yeah, it
So
does. But
that
what?
would be really, really cool.
Yeah, but the question is, though, is do you think they would do something like that?
It's hard to say. I mean,
They are embracing the
we've
PC
seen.
market. That's why I'm saying it.
That's where I was about to go. Actually, is we've seen Sony here recently bridge that gap between the PC market and the console market with not just Uncharted, but Horizon, God of War. Who knows what's to lie in the future at this point? Maybe we could see PlayStation VR2 come to PC, and maybe we could see some digital PSVR titles come to PC along with it. So that'd be neat.
Maybe, like that. That's really what my hope is that at least it allows it. Now, before we move on to our next story here is the last question for you on this, Kyle, especially as you own a first generation PlayStation VR.
Mm-hmm.
How much is this headset going to launch for? Big question. Because how much was the original PlayStation VR standalone there?
That's tough. I want to say, if I remember right, it was $400. Now I picked up mine used many years later for much less expensive than that. But I'm gonna throw out. Ooh, that's tough.
The original
So
PSVR launched at $300. So
Oh, it was 300.
yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna say, and this is gonna sound crazy. Uh, 350 naked headset, 450 with the controllers.
Interesting idea that they would actually sell it all separately, but I wouldn't actually be surprised on that either. So you're thinking,
And
okay, so you're saying $399 for the headset and $499 for the headset with the two controllers, right? Is that what you said?
well, no, I said 349 because
Three forty nine.
you said it was 299 the original MSRP of the
Yes.
first gen
Yeah.
headset, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so if it was 299, I could see it being 349.
Okay.
Or yeah, 349 for
Okay.
the headset. And then 449 with the controllers.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So 449 doesn't sound like that's too bad of a deal there because I think the Oculus Quest 2 comes in at what, $300 for the 128 gig model with the controllers right now.
hmm
Okay. So maybe that's not necessarily bad, especially because of how much more tech is packed inside the PSVR2 compared to what's in the Quest 2. So that doesn't actually sound too far off necessarily for the next step up. But who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us and they'll release it at the exact same price point.
That's another hard thing to say, especially, with chip shortage, and I see chip shortage potentially expanding here soon. So, um, it's hard because these headsets will utilize those chipsets as well.
Yeah, exactly. They will. So I just wanted to at least start the conversation on it because I know, of course, obviously, it's probably down the line for a few people we know that actually do have who have a PlayStation 5 at least. But again, I'm still kind of wondering if it may end up being PC capable though too. So we'll just keep our
Yeah.
fingers crossed on that
Well,
one.
and that was another thing I didn't think about too.
Oh,
You say
Jesus Christ.
PC capable.
Yeah.
Before we move on, sorry.
No, you're all right. I moved over to the next tab to get ready for the next story, and the video started auto playing, and so it just like blew up my ears there for a second. And everyone else is going to hear this though too, or at least did hear it. So if I woke anybody up, you're welcome.
No, I was gonna say the console availability. It's not there, and if
True.
they're able to get the headsets out there, and still not able to get the consoles out there, they better have a way for people to play them. So maybe PC is the way to go. Maybe they will launch it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm keeping my fingers crossed at is that it's probably going to be exactly that. So anyway, as of course we wait for people or wait for Sony to release something else for people to fight over. Again, I'm really good at these segues here. Yeah. As we wait, of course, on that, we move on to our second to last story here, at least in the regular list. Street Fighter 6 has been officially announced and has already stirred up a little bit of controversy for itself with its announcement. So Capcom dropped a teaser trailer on, what was this? This was on the 20th, which would be what, Sunday? Yeah. So on Sunday, they dropped a teaser trailer for Street Fighter 6, and sure enough, doesn't show anything except Ryu, and I don't know exactly who else this other character was, though, too. Apparently, it looks like maybe... it's Luke, excuse me. So the short teaser revealed a beefed-up Ryu as he faces Luke, the 45th and final character of Street Fighter V, who was teased to be in the sequel. According to this article from IGN, they say the announcement for Street Fighter 6 also coincided with the 35th anniversary of the franchise. So, I guess if you are the, you are the Street Fighter fan, then maybe, sure enough, you guys, I don't know, maybe, maybe go pick that up here at some point. Of course, when it does come out. I don't know, Kyle, are you a fighter fan?
I used to be really big into the fighting games, but I haven't played one in many years. Probably a good 4 or 5, maybe longer than that. Um, I don't know. I'm interested in it, but after the launch of Street Fighter 5, I think that's where I really got burned. I did pick up Soul Cal 6 a couple years after that, but it wasn't the same. I got really burned by the launch of Street Fighter 5. I paid full price for the game, uh, and it launched incomplete with an incomplete roster, no story mode to speak of. Even though I mean, there's really not much of a story to the story modes on there. I mean, they're just an arcade mode with some extra fluff. But still, it would have been nice to have it, especially coming off of, the success of Street Fighter 4. Um, that being said, I'm excited to see, but I'm also a little bit leery of what's to be what they have to offer from this, especially after the whole logo fiasco.
Yeah, which is the next thing I want to get into. So yes, the logo for Street Fighter 6 has definitely caused some back and forth discussions in the market right now, in the video game market, about their logo. So let me bring up a picture of it. Street Fighter 6 logo. There's a lot of other people who are talking about it. Let me see if I can find the. Let's see. There was a pretty good article about it. Let's see. Let's see here. Kotaku actually had something pretty good about it. So Kotaku's article here from Wednesday says that the Street Fighter 6 logo looks like a Taiwanese retailer's old logo. It even says like here, not only does Street Fighter 6's logo look like $80 clip art, but it also looks like the old logo of a Taiwanese company. With locations all across Taiwan, Sunfar 3C is a major electronics chain selling gaming computers, peripherals, video games, and gadgets. According to Yahoo News Taiwan, when Street Fighter 6 was announced, fans immediately compared the game's logo to the Sunfar's 3C or Sunfar 3Cs and made tongue-in-cheek jokes about how Capcom copied it, which of course isn't likely. So if I bring up the so let me bring up the picture here from the article itself so you guys can see this, of course. So there we go. So from the Kotaku article, the Street Fighter 6 logo from the video, as you guys saw a minute ago, there it is. On the left, and then on the right is the Sunfar 3C logo. Now, what do you think, Kyle? I mean, that looks pretty close to, almost with those little tweaks.
I mean, it is available. See, that's a different one that I saw. There's another one, however, that is available to be purchased on Photoshop that is very, very similar to the Street Fighter logo. It's
Got it right
thicker
here. Yep.
text. Okay, yeah, with the pink background.
Yep. Let me throw that up here now.
Yeah, that one is actually available to be purchased off of the Adobe Shop Store for $80 actually. And it does kind of, especially with the hooked F and the, I guess, character density being slightly tweaked and maybe a skew filter put on it. That could be the Street Fighter 6 logo. I mean, they obviously added some spray paint effect, but some minor tweaks in Adobe Photoshop, which is where the logo was apparently created. They have the Street Fighter logo. So I don't know. That's super sketch.
And someone
it's pretty generic.
Well, so someone even in the same Twitter thread here even said there's a sci-fi convention in Colmar, France that uses the same logo. So there's the picture of it with the logo right there for people to see at home. Yeah, basically.
See, and I mean, an it's that's an octagon, yeah, right, yeah.
No, it's not. It's not
no.
8 sides. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 side hexagon.
Oh, okay, hexagon. Sorry, I was miscounting. But a hexagon design with 2 characters in it. I mean, how many people can come up with the same design graphically if you say, oh, give me the characters SF in a cool configuration. I bet if you gave it to 10,000 people, 1,000 of them are going to come up with the same exact, almost verbatim design.
I think someone here actually put it just right on another Twitter thread. I'm going to throw this back up here onto the screen so people can see this, of course, though, too. But it's like, here's all these logos showing off from the original Street Fighter games and how a lot of like Street Fighter, the Street Fighter art kind of like stayed basically the same for the majority of its releases. And then, of course, farther down, it's like, okay, there's Street Fighter 6 right there. It's like, okay, where does that really fit in? Like, what are you trying to do here? You know, like even Street Fighter 5, it's like it's still kept the same somewhat motif or at least somewhat edginess that the original logos did. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it was pure laziness, like some people are speculating. Maybe it was something else. I don't know. I just find it funny, though, that it was just that simple. That it just seems like that they were trying to embrace kind of like the half clean look while offering a little bit of the edginess with the spray painted 6 part. I don't know what they were thinking.
I feel like, especially in Street Fighter 5, they it was in their promo materials and some of the stuff that they sold as like marketing stuff, just like t-shirt designs and logos and whatnot. They had gone to this like really clean boxy look mixed with the dirty characters, but then as it got further in the release of the game, the more and more stuff that they put out, it seemed like it kind of leaned more towards that like clean but slightly off, look. So maybe that's what they were trying to pull, is this like very minimalist, slightly mostly clean but slightly off look. That's all I can think of, is they were just they'd been having too much fun making logos for too long on their marketing stuff. Possible, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also very sketch that people have found almost the exact same logo, but at the same time, how many people are going to come up with the same exact logo if you say, come up with something with SF that looks like a cool logo design?
Yeah, keep it clean, offer a little bit of edge, but make sure people know it's Street Fighter 6. And that's what they did. So I wonder maybe if they'll go back to the drawing board for their logo, unless they've already started printing marketing materials, and then that's a lot of money wasted.
Well, and I have also heard that maybe it's a placeholder logo. Well, maybe that is the case. Probably not. But Street Fighter has also been known to change their logos. I mean, you look at some of the text from the original Street Fighter 4 release to Ultra Street Fighter. Yeah, some of it looks the same, but a lot of it changes. So
yeah, it does. But again, you see a
change logos,
right? But you see a Street Fighter logo, and you have a better idea of what that or you have an understanding. It's like that is a Street Fighter logo. It definitely it fits a certain style that you don't really see in the other ones. Like Mortal Kombat has its own style, and so does Tekken, and so does Blaze Blue, and so does Smash Brothers, and so do all these other fighting games. I'm just saying, it's like they've got a motif and style that they fit to, and now it's like a huge diversion off to like just left field that just is a little bizarre.
Right.
But that's, again, if they haven't printed marketing materials yet, and that is just a placeholder, cool. If that is the final design they've decided on, though, as the logo, and they've already started printing stuff, and there's all this like this just talk about everything that's going on with it, that's a lot of money that Capcom has lost, especially given the fact that they were hacked just last year or 2 years ago, and had a lot of things revealed and leaked out that they obviously didn't want out. So
right,
yeah. But as of course we wait for seeing whether or not Street Fighter 6 ends up being delayed because of this logo, we move on to another delay, and that's going to be our this is going to be our last story, at least in the main list for news tonight, and that is there will be no main Call of Duty game. Oh, I got the text wrong there at the bottom of the screen. There will be no main COD game this next year. I'm going to just switch back over to the NPCs news logo to get that off the screen. There will be no main Call of Duty game released in 2023. So, according to a report from Bloomberg, they say that and this is an article from Kotaku, says while this year's Modern Warfare release is still on track and there are other Call of Duty projects in the works, Bloomberg reports that whatever main entry in the series was coming next has been pushed back. This means that for the first time since 2004, the world will see a holiday season without a Call of Duty game propping up the sales charts. And Kotaku even has a screen cap from Wikipedia showing every year that a game has released, and it really has been that way for the last decade. And I'm a little annoyed because, of course, obviously, we talked about Modern Warfare in our podcast episode that we recorded yesterday. Of course, it'll get published on Thursday. And I thought it was going to be the game that was releasing this year, which is supposedly a remake of Modern Warfare 2. And given the current crisis and situation in Ukraine, and a lot of other things that have been happening at home and abroad, that it definitely did feel out of place for there to be, it did feel like there was something out of place with that game coming out. And I was like, okay, so then this year's is canceled. We'll see it next year. But I was obviously wrong when reading that story, and we are not going to be seeing a title next year instead. So, I mean, is that really going to cause a problem, though, Kyle? Do you think that's really going to cause an issue for anything going forward with Call of Duty, or is this just something that's just not really to worry about?
I see him getting backlash, maybe a little bit from the fans, but I mean, we've gotten a Call of Duty every year for like 20 years,
Yep.
at least. I mean, is it so bad to take a break so we actually get one that has, a lengthy quality story instead of, one short quality story every, I don't know, 2 to 5 years? I would rather have a longer game, maybe not even necessarily 5 hours longer, just a couple hours longer, 2 hours longer. Give me just a little bit extra gameplay. Give me some extra narrative, but make it more worth my time. Make
Yeah.
it more worth my money.
Oh, yeah.
Don't release a game that's going to be broken in multiplayer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want them to take their time, and maybe it's time that Call of Duty, they finally step back from the plate, examine what they've done for the past 20 years, and go, okay, guys, let's make something that the fans really, really want.
And yeah, I think that's actually where a lot of it comes from, because further along in the article is that Bloomberg, the Kotaku reporter here, what Bloomberg has said is that it was after a recent entry in the series failed to meet expectations. It led some executives to believe that they're introducing new versions too rapidly. However, if we go back and look, of course, at every yearly release of Call of Duty, looking at this screen cap here that has everything listed, we got, look at like Infinite Warfare and Ghosts and Black Ops 4, which Black Ops 4 didn't even have a campaign to it. It was all multiplayer specific. And apparently it seems like Vanguard did not do as well as they were hoping by going back to World War II, where I think EA had success with going back to it with things like Battlefield 5, and then, of course, with World War I and Battlefield 1. So their kind of idea to step back in time again just doesn't seem like it's gone off without a hitch. So maybe that's finally where they realized, okay, we need to do it, but it just sucks it took so long for them to realize that, though. But I'm not a annual Call of Duty player anyway. I haven't been since Modern Warfare 3. And it took me forever to play the new Modern Warfare, the remake of Modern Warfare. Played a lot of Warzone, but it just took me forever. So I don't know. I guess maybe for people who play Call of Duty, this is going to be a shot in the back, and they're going to feel pretty left out when it comes to the holiday season's round of games. Or I don't know. Maybe they'll move on to something else. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, to me, it feels like every year the campaigns have gotten progressively um shorter and less quality. Multiplayer is stale, but even when they add new stuff and it's good to play, it's only good to play for a couple weeks because then all of a sudden it becomes riddled with hackers and cheaters and
Yeah.
it's not well policed. Um, and the fact that, at the time, Blizzard Activision had just been closing studio after studio to wrangle people in. The studios that they had bought, just basically closing them, dissolving them, and bringing people on board to work on Call of Duty to make it a continuously broken game. This is for the best.
Yeah, it probably is, and it probably maybe helps to bring it to light that they do need to take their time. And I don't know if maybe some of it, like the article goes on to say that the decision was not influenced by the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. But I wonder if it might have had some smaller influence, not necessarily like being the main thing or the main reason why, but I wonder if it would have had some smaller influence realizing that we didn't get a Halo game pumped out every year. We didn't get a Sea of Thieves, like 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever pumped out every year. We haven't seen a Gears of War, 5, 6, 7, 8, 27, whatever. We haven't seen all of these things come out from Microsoft's owned studios. So maybe they finally took that to heart and realized that, it's like Microsoft has been able to make some decent money on their first party titles and haven't required them to make stuff every year for the same properties over and over and over again. But I don't know. I mean, they said that's what it was, but I still feel that maybe there is some of that influence there. But
I think so.
yeah. But my last segue for tonight anyway is of course, speaking of acquisitions, and what their potential impact could be. Let's talk about this last bit here that you were going to report on, Kyle, and that was Nintendo's recent acquisition of SPD?
SRD.
SRD.
System Research and Development.
Okay, so tell us, who is SRD? What did they do, and why did Nintendo decide to acquire them?
So, SRD is or of course, Systems Research and Development, is a company that Nintendo has worked with since 1983, developing video games. Um, Basically, for 40 years, they've only ever been a partner, and they've actually worked on games like the original Super Mario Brothers and the original Legend of Zelda. Um, but it comes down to the fact that Nintendo, quote, says it will serve to strengthen the management base of SRD and secure the availability of software development resources for Nintendo. Basically, I mean, it's kind of what Devolver did in a way, except Devolver doesn't, make consoles. They just bought a partner that, they've worked with forever, that it's a deal that should have been, done and over with probably 20 years ago, but it's good that they're working together. It does say that the previous acquisitions of Next Level Games, uh, this studio doesn't actually develop their own games. They only particularly assist in development, which isn't necessarily a bad thing with Nintendo either.
True.
They outsource a lot of stuff anyway. I mean, you look at how they've done like the Metroid games, for instance. So
Yeah, and maybe them having at least their base developer partner that they've had for all of these years, finally under their wing, or like actually in the house of Mario officially, kind of makes sense. But, for a lot of people, it's like, what else did SRD do outside of the assisting and supporting of Nintendo? Like, I haven't been able to come across anything else yet other than working on
really
stuff for
didn't.
Nintendo.
I mean,
Like
They worked on the NES version of Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers. Most recently, they actually assisted on Animal Crossing: New Horizon and Ring Fit Adventure. But Nintendo also, this is them following suit. They did say previously at the beginning of the month that they weren't interested in buying in any third party or into any third party studios or making any third party acquisitions. But to the same effect, a company that's basically worked with Nintendo exclusively in the past, acquiring them isn't, necessarily acquiring a third party studio. This is a Nintendo studio.
basically that's the way that this all comes across, is that that's what they just have been their entire the entire life of the company. It looked like at
Yeah.
one point in time what was it? They did make actual CAD software up until it looks like 2019 when they shut that down. So it looks like they had been doing that since the 80s as well. So whatever their technology is that they use to help with making Nintendo games, it looks like they also had CAD software that they probably used in tandem with it that they then sold separately that necessarily didn't have an impact on anything Nintendo related. But even so, it is still it's cool that at least Nintendo is finally realizing to embrace them. But yeah, looking at the list of games that they've helped on through the entire life, it's like, why haven't they owned them in the first place? I mean, hell, the Nintendo Wiki, the Nintendo Fandom Wiki here says, let's see, where is it? Did I see it there? Yeah. There's no capital relationship between the company and Nintendo, although their Kyoto office is inside the Nintendo Development Center. They literally are a Nintendo company already based on that part. Because obviously Nintendo's not just like, hey, just make our stuff for us, it actually had some sort of financial thing going on between both sides. So I'm just saying though that okay, good for you guys taking in one of your first party devs already, good for you.
Now those guys don't have to go to the Nintendo building to go to work. They're just going to work.
Yeah, no kidding. Now it's like I'm going to the my office at Nintendo. It's like now I'm just going to my office. Yeah. It's just it's funny just to think that. But okay, good job Nintendo for doing the bare minimum on acquisitions, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
Buy EA next.
This is exactly like when Devolver picked up Crow Team. I mean, Crow Team has basically only worked with Devolver. I think Devolver's been the only one to ever publish a Crow Team game, so it just kind of made sense when the purchase happened. It was like, oh, you guys didn't own them already?
It's just funny. That's all. It's just like, yeah, it's for some of these companies why something like that happens, but yeah. I don't know. I don't have any control over it.
You just kind of look at Nintendo and go, wait, they were there. You didn't own them already? Okay, whatever.
They've been there and helped you, revitalize the entire video game industry as we know it, and have been there since. And now you're only just buying them.
Yeah.
What gives? I don't know. That's all Nintendo's thing. So good for them, I guess, to continue on with acquiring.
Congratulations, SRD. You no longer have to lease your office space from Nintendo.
Nintendo now owns you. Well, they have already 40 years. So,
right.
But that is it in the world of video game news then, or at least what we reported on here for the week. I'm sure there's other stories we missed out on, but of course, these are the ones we wanted to focus on, and these are the ones that we wanted to provide our opinion on. So with that, that is it for the news roundup for the week of February 26, 2022. Of course, with everything we do, our big thing is the podcast. So be sure to go check out our podcast, all of our past content, all of our upcoming content as well, too. It's over on anchor.fm/the-NPCs-podcast. All the links to the different podcast platforms we are supported on: Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and more are all on there. We do have a new episode of the NPCs Discuss coming up this next Thursday, talking about controversies in video gaming, more specifically talking about how controversies are handled from games themselves, or controversy for the sake of controversy. It's a great episode. It is a long episode. but it is definitely a big one that probably needed to be talked about. So be on the lookout for that episode. But of course, also go back and again look at our past catalog of all the other different things we've talked about and different things we've gone over. With that, though, too, of course, you're watching us here on YouTube. Be sure to go hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you know when we do go live. We publish any content, any of that fun stuff, so you know there. And of course, check us out on social media on Facebook and Twitter at the NPCs Podcast. With that, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We will catch you all next week.
Laters.